Welcome back to season 2 of Rookie Pastors, a podcast of conversations about real ministry by real pastors. And today, listeners, you have the luxury and joy of listening to all 4 rookie pastors. I got Bryan, Dustin, Kyle, and myself, Josh Prince. We are excited to be back with you guys. I was going to let you guys kind of all share about what you did over the summer, but I think I came up with a really good list. ChatGPT let me know something that each of you did this summer.
Good.
And so it told me that Bryan moved, that Kyle took a second run with the soul patch, and that Dustin became a hand model over the summer.
Became a hand model. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
accurately for me, at least told me that I turned 40. So that's the thing that it do. So it's pretty good. But more importantly, if we're going to talk about this summer, what has happened in between season 1 and season 2, our focus today is what happened with Cracker Barrel. Now, unless you live
Absolutely.
under a rock, you probably know what happened to Cracker Barrel. I'll tell you more about what happened to Cracker Barrel in a second. The real question before we really get into things is, guys, you sit down at Cracker Barrel, you've walked through the store, you've played some checkers or rocked in the front rocking chair, but it's now time to order your food. What is the go-to order for you at Cracker Barrel?
I'll start us off because it's a really hard decision for me because I want lots of food.
All the
But
foods.
I really like their biscuits and gravy, and then a side of sausage with that. That's probably that. Now that doesn't mean I'm not eating pancakes with that as well. But if I can have some of their biscuits and gravy, I'm in a good mood. So that's my go-to.
All right.
Is that your all day go to or just your breakfast go to?
I don't know if I've ever been at Cracker Barrel for anything other than breakfast. So,
Oh, you're missing out.
well, I understand that, but you know that's just what I do. I just go there for breakfast. That's about it.
You're not as old as me, so you don't eat dinner at Cracker Barrel hours. So,
That's true. That's true. I am not as old as you. I am actually. Let's do this. Raise your hand if you're in your 30s on this podcast.
For those not
Just
able
me?
to
Just
see,
me,
this
guys?
Kyle
Why aren't
is-
you raising your hands? That's weird. That's weird. Okay, cool.
Oh,
All right, well, let's move on to people who get heartburn after they eat at Cracker Barrel. Dustin, Bryan, what's your go-to order?
go ahead, Ryan.
I don't think that Cracker Barrel's breakfast is all that great, but I do love
Shots
eating
fired.
lunch or dinner there. And so if I'm sitting down, depending on how hungry I am, I will get chicken and dumplings. And then I will either do the 3 sides or the 2 sides. If I'm doing the 3 sides, it's usually fried apples and green beans. If I'm doing the 3 sides, it's fried apples, green beans, and maybe corn, or sometimes, because I need to have as many carbs in my life as I possibly can, I will get another side of dumplings to go with the chicken and dumplings.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
Can I get a
set of That's-
dumplings with my dumplings?
That's incredible.
yeah.
I
I need to take
Thus-
a
I didn't even know that was an option. I didn't
Thus,
know.
I look like this.
Can I have order chicken and dumplings? Extra dumplings, please.
Could you just go ahead and get the heart doctor on call while I eat
Great.
this?
There's no chicken in the side of dumplings. It's just dumplings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just-
it is
just more-
just dough.
I need
and-
more soggy bread, please. Just it goes down faster that way.
Oh my gosh.
Dustin, what salad do you get when you go eat at Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, that's side salad. That's all I get. Whenever I go there, just water.
You're a vegetable plate guy.
No, I usually one or two things. I'm either going to get the fried chicken, or I'm going to get that maple bacon grilled chicken. Have you had that stuff? Man, so good. And so I'll get one of those, and then I'll go for fried okra and hash brown casserole. Those are kind of my go-tos. Now, Kyle, if I sit down for breakfast, I'm definitely getting me some pecan pancakes. I
pecan
discovered
pancakes.
those in college, and man, pancakes lathered in butter and syrup. It's hard to beat.
Cool.
All right, well, my go-to, I only eat breakfast at Cracker Barrel. And
Thank
by
you.
only eat breakfast, I mean I just drink the syrup straight from the bottle. That is all I do. So I don't really care about anything else but the pancakes. I love the pancakes. I love any pancake that's bigger than my face and that's made in a griddle. So I mean, I don't care about anything else. I'll just get the pancakes. So
All right. So, question for just a plain pancake, which is better, Cracker Barrel or IHOP?
Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel.
Oh, absolutely, Cracker Barrel.
Okay.
100%.
I agree.
It's not even close.
I agree.
So Cracker Barrel, I know your image is hurting. We would gladly take a sponsorship to promote you as best we can.
Happy
That's
to
right.
help.
Whichever logo you want promoted. We'll put it out there.
All right. Well, solid segue there, Brian. So Cracker Barrel, if you were unaware for whatever reason, they attempted a re-imaging, a brand re-imaging, but more than that, strategy over the summer that failed miserably. They were hoping that they could reach to more young and diverse customers, but the customers they had did not think that was a very fun experiment. Started a lot of backlash, a lot of struggle. Started seeing declining in sales, all that kind of stuff, and so they scaled back the initiative very quickly. And the four of us were texting throughout this process, laughing at how Cracker Barrel had their own revitalization moment.
Right.
They attempted something and it didn't necessarily work out in their favor. But hey, what is it? No, something is what's that phrase?
No good deed is left unpunished.
No, see, I really came prepared for the podcast.
Yeah.
No
Let's throw
publicity is
other
bad
euphemisms.
publicity. That's it. No publicity is bad publicity.
Okay.
So they obviously
There you
got their
go.
name put out there. So we're gonna not talk about the necessary demise of Cracker Barrel, but the lessons learned in a very similar fashion with revitalizing churches. So the first thing I want us to get into is your own Cracker Barrel moment as a pastor. When did you make a change that you quickly realized was unwise, unnecessary, or infuriating to your church? Who wants to go first on this?
Well, I mean, I've mentioned on the podcast the story of our church. I think I have, but our church getting rid of the handbells. And that still, like, I've been here 4 years now, still irks some people. And it was just one of those things where I was like, are we gonna be using these? I'm asking people who are around the worship ministry, and they're like, no, we haven't used them in a long time. And it meant something to a group of people, the church, and I didn't know, so it was this really kind of quick change of like, yeah, we don't need that. And then it was a really big deal. So sometimes it's getting rid of something at the church even that people really hold on to. And it might not make sense to me, but it also doesn't make sense to me why people had like such a attachment to the interior of Cracker Barrel, that I'm like, why does that matter? But for some people it does. Some people it does mean something to their daily routine. And so, it can frustrate some people. So it's one of the things to really think out before you make decisions at a church.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, one of my Cracker Barrel moments at my previous church is pretty soon after I went there. So in previous church, I was a campus pastor at a satellite campus, but kind of functioned as a senior pastor. So when I got there, they had a prayer list with everybody's ailments and problems and marriage issues and all that kind of stuff that they printed out every week, and they left it laying out for everybody to see. And thought that was kind of, I didn't think that privacy was being taken care of. And we had a 3 to 5 minute welcome time in each service, like in the middle of the service, where we just jammed out and people went all over the place to, shake hands and all kind of stuff. And I thought that was a little too long. So pretty quickly I moved to change the way that we did the prayer list and then also scale back quite a bit the welcome time to only about a minute. And I didn't really ask anybody. I just said, hey, this is something we need to do. They called a impromptu business meeting to take a vote, that we would go back to doing the prayer list the way that we had done it, and that the greeting and meeting time would stay the same. And so I learned very quickly, okay, that was my Cracker Barrel moment where I just stepped out there, made a change, didn't really talk to anybody about it. And anyway, I learned to just make sure that if you're going to make a change, especially one that people are possibly passionate about, you need to go ahead and get some dialogue, have some conversations about it, and go ahead and ask before you make a change. If you think it's not going to affect anything, maybe go ahead and just ask some people, do you think this will make an impact?
So you're telling me that an introverted pastor didn't want a long greeting time and was really concerned about privacy of things?
I mean, half the time they're just walking over to shake somebody's hand that they were just in Sunday school with anyway.
Absolutely. They walk,
right.
walk right past a row of guests so they can talk to the guy that they sat by in Sunday school.
That's why you got to make those guests stand up so everyone knows.
Yeah.
All right, Bryan, what's your CB moment?
Well, so first off, I learned a lesson from Kyle. When I got here, I found out that we had multiple sets of handbells, and we still have multiple sets of handbells.
Do you want to send them to us?
Just one set.
No, that would be my Cracker Barrel moment if I sent them to you.
I'll send them back, but I can just be like, look, we have some. It's okay. And then I can be like, we're putting them in storage in Commerce.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. It would really save me.
Just in case your roof leaks, you want to keep them safe in Commerce.
Right.
Yeah, because we just got a new roof. My Cracker Barrel moment is I got rid of a Coke machine, and it was a huge distraction to the student ministry because that's all kids want to do is buy Cokes, and so we just made an arbitrary decision and said bye Coke machine. And the vitriol that we received from the people on Sunday morning that could stop at a convenience store and bring a 20 ounce, not a can, was just crazy. We did not expect that. I did not expect that one bit because it was just a Coke machine. Nothing to do with your spiritual life at all. But
Interesting. So when being a revitalizing pastor, typically we go into churches that have way too much storage. Right. Places that once were areas to assemble now just become storage units. So that's what was happening here at Cedar Hill. So we had a special week-long kind of mission trip in the city, ministering to a variety of needs. And one of them at the same time was we were doing some things around our campus. And so we had rented a 40-yarder and we're filling it up with untouched stuff. And two things particularly made some people mad. One was these chairs that the church has probably had since the 70s. And they were the color palette, just to really help you out, is let's pick every shade of mustard and
we
and
have
just
those
make that
chairs.
chair color.
We
So
have
it's
those chairs downstairs.
yeah, yellow and brown, and then the worst type of mustard color, green. I don't even know if that's a mustard color, but that was the color palette. They were in the youth room. The students hated them, so we were throwing them away. And we had a ton of old VBS like sets that were made out of cardboard, and a few other little random pieces that went with it. And so we got rid of that because we had it was just a stockpile of things that we didn't need. And so I had a crew that wasn't even helping out with us during the week showed up, and they were pretty ticked. And so some of those things we were like, just needed an explanation, but it was humbling, and it was within that first year of being here, so it was pretty interesting.
So we're about to do that here. Maybe I should live stream us doing that to see the reactions.
Let people weigh in.
Yeah,
You should do like they do, like whenever somebody buys a storage unit, unsight unseen, and then they go video what they find. You should do that as y'all go through and clean it out.
Oh man, I should have done that when I first got here. It's crazy what all we have.
So to this end, right, we're all going to have these moments. They just naturally come. It's part of leadership. So sometimes leadership is trying things out that you think might work, and even if you've workshopped it, there's going to be surprises. There's going to be feedback, pushback, whatever it might be. So how do you communicate as a pastor to the congregation when a change fails? All right, we're putting something forward and it fails. How do you discuss that with the church without losing the trust of the church, without losing the momentum that maybe you've built?
I think if you just take the time to acknowledge, hey, I think we may have just jumped into this too quickly, and we didn't get enough conversation about it. We didn't get enough input. Maybe your voices weren't heard, and so we're going to put pause on the change that we had planned, and we'll listen some more, and then we'll reevaluate that and come back with with the same plan or with a new plan, whatever the case may be. I think, there was a good example of that. A couple of years ago, Texas Baptist passed a GC2 belief statement kind of thing that was supposed to go along with a new initiative they had, and there was quite a bit of backlash to it. And that was back when Dr. Hardage was still around. And he just kind of publicly said, "Hey, we're going to press pause on this and go back, reevaluate, and listen some more before we really implement this." And so, just instead of pushing forward with implementation, just take a moment to stop and to listen.
Yeah, I mean, I think just transparency is the biggest thing. Like being as honest as possible, and it goes beyond those moments when failure happens. Like if you're making your communication as transparent as possible in everything that you're doing, if people know that you as the pastor are approachable on all topics, right? Then when there are failures or there are things that you have to own, you know that there isn't going to be like this questioning of your motives or anything like that. You've built up the relationship where people can say, quickly forgive and move on from those things. And that's why I think it's so tough when those things happen in your first year at a church. You're excited. You want to help the church refresh. Your heartbeat is right. As a rookie pastor, you're wanting to do the best thing to see this church succeed quickly. And you change that one thing that's a little landmine. And you have to own it quickly. That's not the time to bow up and be like, listen, I'm right. I know what I'm talking about here. That's not the time. It's the time to go, wow, I didn't realize that this was such a sensitive topic. Can you explain the heart behind all this? Because that was a big thing with some of my failures of just explain to me the heart behind it. Why is this a heartbeat for our church? I'm still trying to know this church. I'm still trying to learn it. Tell me why. And so it's a good opportunity to give people a chance to express their hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan, you got some words on that?
Kyle, you hit it. You got to own it. But I think there's another aspect to it that is pretty self-explanatory. We got to prayerfully own it, and just recognize. I know for me, a lot of times, pushing ahead means that I didn't put enough prayer into that moment to get the discernment of where to go. And so you just get up and say, you know what, we are going to pause this, or I don't want to say scrap it, because it might be a great idea. It's just not the right idea at that time. And just say, we hear you. We recognize it. I'm sorry. And we want to grow from this. And we aim. I don't want to say we will. We aim to be better at this next time. But in that owning it, I think it's definitely appropriate for you to ask the church, can you give us some grace? Like we're in the business of grace. We receive grace every day. Like, can you give us some grace, because we are, confessing, so to speak, that we screwed up.
Yeah, I think in some of the failures that we've faced, and one more than any comes to mind, I think, and I've shared on this point before, I think when you lead with humility, when you lead with love, when you lead with grace after something fails, it shows the church that you love them more than you loved whatever plan you came up with. And it communicates unity in a much greater way. So I can come up with incredible plans, but if the church doesn't trust me, if they're not in a healthy place to move forward, then it's going to fail. And so you just got to not take advantage of failure, but at the same time you can show the church, hey, I'm your pastor. Whether you agree with me on every little detail or not, I'm still your pastor. I still love you. I'm still going to lead. And so I think if we're to add that to the wisdom that you guys have already given, I think that's what's helped. I think it's what solidified me maybe in some people's minds of, he really is my pastor. He really does care about me. Failure is just a reality. And so how we use it to minister, I think is a powerful and unique opportunity that we're given in leadership. So when, how do you evaluate? What have you found has been helpful when your team or when you are recognizing, hey, there's some challenges here to this initiative we're putting forward? What does your evaluation process look for? What does it look like as you're adjusting or pausing or maybe even making the decision, hey, we've just got to completely pump the brakes on this thing? What does that evaluation process look like for you guys?
How quickly the business meeting's scheduled?
Yeah, there you
I think one thing that's beneficial, um, think if you are evaluating every event and evaluating changes, no matter what they are, on a regular basis, whether good or bad, whether successful or unsuccessful, um, you are creating this culture of making sure you're always looking looking to learn more from those experiences. So we're not talking about like events here, but we had an event this past week, and what we had planned for the event really all fell apart. But how we shifted really was a huge success, and it went very well. And so we learned from that that we should focus on doing that task at these styles of events and stuff. And so the reason we were able to do that is because our staff is used to, whenever we make a decision, whenever we do an event, we're always evaluating those decisions when we get back together. Like, okay, how did it go? And we've created that culture amongst our leadership to be asking questions, even if it was a huge success. Okay, what could have gone better? That way, when something does fail, it doesn't feel like that's the only thing we're evaluating. We're not only evaluating failure, because then it's like, all right, guys, let's talk about this. Let's talk about how we messed up, and we dread those meetings. But then now when we fail, it's like, this is what we do every time. We try to get better about this. We try to move forward. Everything's about looking forward. And echo one of the things you said, Josh, about unity. Like, I think it's important to continue to remind your staff and remind the church we're all in the same team. We're all in this together. And when you do that even the failures provide opportunity for strengthening of the church.
I think a key thing is to evaluate what category this change falls into. Is this a preference change? Like for me, the meet and greet time, that was a preference change. I didn't like it, and I felt like our guests were uncomfortable, in a situation like that. That was a preference thing. But say you're making a change that's doctrinal or missional as part of the mission. Those are things that need to change. And so part of that may be saying, okay, we're going to have some conversations around this topic, schedule those out, make some town halls kind of things or something like that. But, if there's a doctrinal issue, you've got to lead your church to make that correction so that you can be, have greater fidelity to the Word of God. If it's a part of the mission, maybe it does take a while. It's, a lot of times they say don't try to make any major changes for 3 years or something like that. But if it's something missional that needs to happen immediately, especially for the health or survival of a church in decline or something like that, it may just take getting some key leaders to buy into the reason behind the change and the need for the change. And some of that may just need to be some information transfer, letting them understand the reality of the situation that the church is in, so that they see that the change is urgent. If it needs to happen quickly, they need to see the urgency of the change. So some of it is just evaluating what categories this fall into. Is this something that can wait, or is this something that needs to happen right away?
Yeah, and I think you prep as many people before the change as you can, and communicate with them in different aspects. But you also have to recognize that, like, you can get a whole bunch of people on board and it can still blow up, behind you. Because I don't doubt that Cracker Barrel did focus groups and things like that. They might not have done the right focus groups, but you go back to those people. I think you go back to those people and say, okay, y'all, did you anticipate the reaction we got? And if you did, why did you not voice that prior? as part of that evaluation process. Or why are we blindsided? What did we miss here? And you just, but Kyle, I think you're absolutely right as well. You're going to win the game today. That you just, everything needs to be evaluated, not just when something goes wrong. Everything needs to be evaluated, and sit down and say, okay, did this work? Is it working? Is it fitting our needs? Do we need to tweak it? That constant state of evaluation, which is hard to make sure you do that, because we get busy with everything else and doing other things. And but you do your own self-evaluation of what it is, and then you bring your leadership in, if it's a whole church thing or if it's a minor thing, the leadership's over that, and talk about it and say, was it successful, or what went wrong?
I think it's also important to note that, like, people being upset does not mean failure. Just because people get mad about a change doesn't mean that, oh, we got to go back. Like, change is going to be uncomfortable for people. But that's why evaluation is so important. Like, did we miss something? Did we do unnecessary harm to our relationships in the church? Or are we going to have to grin and bear some of this? That's what Bryan, you were saying, of prayerfully going at these decisions is so important. And Dustin, you as well, talking about this preferential change. Is our pride getting in the way here? Is it our pride puffing up and saying, well, people just need to get over this, blah, blah, blah? Or is it, no, I missed something. I've harmed my ability to move the church forward in something. I should have addressed this differently. You have to evaluate those things. If you're doing it right and people are upset, sometimes that's just going to happen. That doesn't mean it's failed. It means it's still tough. But I think it's important to make that distinction, that failure isn't just people being mad. Failure is when we didn't evaluate the impact of this. We have hurt our ability to move forward in this area of ministry because we didn't think everything through. That's more of a failure.
Yeah,
and we talk about dripping vision and just continually drip the vision on people. I think when you've got a change coming or whatever, just drop it in your conversations of, hey, what do you think about this, or what would this look like, and you can get a pretty good gauge prior of where people are going to be on that. If you're just if you're not necessarily going in an official capacity, you're just dripping things to them as part of your normal conversation with them, and you can learn a lot there.
I think the evaluation process, we talked about staff and that pursuit of evaluating things. A lot of times I'll use a right, wrong, missing, confused strategy. But I would say in regards to strategy too, we have to let lay people be very much part of this. And I think a diversity in that and allowing them to hear each other. So if you're going to do a focus group, you don't just want the people you're currently catering to. You want the people that you want to be catering to. You want to figure out kind of what you're missing. So, generally when we create a strategy team, like I have one right now that's looking through discipleship aspects of the church. We have a couple people that have been here for over 30 years. And then we have a couple who have only been here for like a year. And they're bringing in that perspective, which is super helpful. I had a previous strategy team that helped us develop our vision as a church. And one of them, I was so grateful that they were part of the group because much of their life, they hadn't been a believer. And so we would use terminology and that person would say, I don't even know what that word is. Like, I don't know what that means. And so it helps the more seasoned believer think through things that just don't make sense. And so I think that evaluation process is making sure that you're not just putting your fan club in the room with you, people who are going to pad your ego or go along with you and just say yes, because maybe they want change. Like putting people who maybe have the ability to be disruptive, but at the same time are humble enough to listen and be part of a team. I think that is really important on the front end, but even the process as you go along. Because if you have investors, it's going to help that process. So last thing, and I want to kind of reshape this question versus how I kind of originally sent it to you guys, is what have been the lessons that you've learned from failure that made you stronger or made the church stronger? Like what have been specific lessons that you've seen yourself garner or the church that you've led garner in this failed experiments that you've had to endure through?
I think for me, just a realization to try my very best to not take it personal, because usually whenever somebody or a group of people rejects a change or an initiative that you pushed out there, it's not because of you. It's because of a loss that they're going to experience because of this change. Something that they value highly that is not as effective that it used to be when they first started it. Because nobody starts a failing ministry because they want it to fail. They started it a long time ago and it was successful and it fit a purpose. But now it's just not meeting that purpose or something, whatever the case may be. They're experiencing loss while you're experiencing excitement about the future. And so a rejection like that is really not about you. And oftentimes we pastors can take it personally. But really it's about what they're experiencing. And so, realizing that and loving your people through that, that's one of the biggest things that I've learned.
The ability to hurt and grieve. Like we're so gung ho on something, direction, a new vision or a new ministry, and it fails, and whether it was your baby or not, but you were a key part of it, and you're the one that is responsible for motivating the congregation to that. And when it blows up, it's painful, and it's humbling. And the church sees it. Hopefully the church sees that it's humbling to you, but also I think if they can see that, you can grieve well, or you can hurt well through it, I think that strengthens you in your leadership. And when I mean that, like, you're not woe is me, but like you are processing that this wasn't gonna be who we are. And when you do that, I think that buys you some capital in the idea of they're going to be there for me when I hurt, because they know what hurt is. And we can walk through this together. And if you've got leaders that they were championing whatever this Cracker Barrel moment was, if you can hurt with them well, that will deepen your relationship with those people, which makes you even more so their pastor. And so that's a huge lesson that I've learned through many experiences.
Yeah, I think every failure is just an opportunity to know your church more. You're getting an opportunity to learn something new about people. Sometimes it's stuff that you are glad you learned. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really, really messy, that you learn from failure. I think a tough lesson is, just because we have loving church members doesn't mean they're all our friends. They're all our brothers and sisters in Christ. But you have to build up kind of that thick skin of understanding your relationship. And we've talked a lot about this, of like, that's one of the things that makes being a pastor kind of a lonely profession. It isolates you when you learn these things sometimes. And that's why it's so important to lean into your support structure, your friends outside the church, your spouse and your family. But I think if we start looking at failure as an opportunity to learn something new about the church, I think it does soften the blow of it. Yeah, I wish we had seen victory in this, but what did I learn? And so I know it's kind of a weird thing to say. What have I learned from failure? It's that I can learn from failure. I think I got around the question in that. But it's an opportunity to know your church more, and it's a reminder to continue to build those relationships, because the more you know about the people in church, the more time you spend around them, it's going to help you avoid those failures in the future. It's going to help you know who to talk to about moving stuff around in that room or changing this structure of this ministry, because you know the people better. That's one of the things I learned.
Hey, let me add one more thing on that. That as Kyle was talking, it kind of hit me. Um, I think one of the lessons that can be learned, and this is going to sound very, very churchy and preachy and thing. I think it just reinforces the idea of how important discipleship is. Because if you're discipling well, that doesn't mean that everything is going to be successful or it's, not going to fail or whatever. But if you're discipling well and your church is making solid disciples, I truly believe the residual aftermath is not as hard as it is if it's people that aren't spiritually mature or spiritually growing. Cracker Barrel, they had no idea they were going to receive the vitriol that they got. And we're blindsided when we mess up. But if they, if in reality, let's be honest, if people took a step back and were like, is this really that big a deal? They might not have been as, if they let maturity come into their life a little bit, so to speak, they might not have responded the way they did to the corporate office of Cracker Barrel. And I just think that's just a reinforcement thing of we're here to be discipling, and because as people are discipled, unity comes from that, and that allows us to navigate difficult things easier.
Yeah. That made me think of something, Ryan. And one of these days, we're going to let Josh say something. But so it just made me think about something. The reality of Cracker Barrel is that people love Cracker Barrel, and they love the nostalgia that going in there and sitting next to some old photos and farm equipment brings to like their experience. And so that's what they were experiencing, that loss of nostalgia. And so it means that they loved what they were experiencing. Do you remember how Chili's used to be decorated with all the Chili Festival stuff and everything? I love that. I love that nostalgia, but they're not that way anymore. The new Chili's are very bland, general grill and bar kind of look, but nobody ever said anything. And it just makes me think, people didn't have so much love and attachment to that experience at Chili's as they do at Cracker Barrel. And so whenever people have a problem with a change or something, there's something there that they love and that they have enjoyed that experience. And so I think as pastors, especially if you're a new pastor and you're coming in, you don't have that connection all the way to the past. That's just something to remember that people often they're reacting to something that they love, handbells or, whatever the case may be. And we need to understand that it's born out of love and appreciation, nostalgia, if you want to call it that. And that just takes time to navigate. So, Kyle, do you have anything you want to add before?
Yeah, actually,
let Josh.
It is important to note, just because I'm fascinated by marketing. Chili's made that change gradually. And so over time, they slowly kind of took stuff away from their decor. They did a very gradual change. And then they'd open a new restaurant and they just wouldn't put as much stuff on the walls. And then Cracker Barrel tried to make a massive change in one. And so we can learn a lesson from that. We can learn a lesson of like doing a massive change without giving people the time to kind of move from point A to point B. There's something to be learned in that.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that we've always said, and it's the wisdom that we have to understand. There's things that have to change because society and culture changes. So methods are going to have to shift. It's the message that doesn't change, right? It's the gospel that's not changing. Cedar Hill, 175 years ago when it's founded, is vastly different, just naturally, because everything else is different. And so we have to change methods. We have to change strategies, but at the end of the day, the message has to stay the same. And so I know that there's a lot that goes into that. You could unpack that even more. But having the humility, focusing on the unity, doing things for a reason, not just to do them. The church needs that. That's what being a leader is. You've got to work your way through all of that and be wise in how you handle it. Well, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the wisdom. And thank you to the listeners for tuning in to episode 1 of season 2. We're excited to get season 2 rolling. Encourage you, as we have time and time again, make sure that you're following us on the social medias. Feel free. We highly encourage you to share that you listen with the podcast, maybe a favorite snippet of what you took away, or just share with the world your Cracker Barrel order, whatever it might be. But get the word out about Rookie Pastors Podcast. We really appreciate you supporting us. Go eat some pancakes. Go love on some people. Share Jesus with somebody. Thanks for listening in today. Have a good one.
Don't sleep on those biscuits and gravy either. Okay.
Go get some dumplings.
Extra.